Right, so Victoria's happy to move this. Tim's happy to second it. Any discussion? All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much, Russell. Andrew, you're up. So item 9, Capital Programme Performance Report.
Morning, everybody. So just to highlight a few things from the report, and then I'll go to some questions fairly quickly. Firstly, the project manager's forecast was lifted by about 28 million from the November to December report. This is largely in the transport portfolio. I'll talk about transport a little bit further in a moment. That's against a budget of 490 million. This is in the core capital program, excluding Te Kaha. Our PMO forecast remains at 450 million at the end of December, and we look at that with regard to sort of current year performance and historical performance and some of the trends and knowledge and judgment going forward. Having closed December fully and January virtually closed about today, you can probably expect to see in our next report some upward movement on that PMO forecast. We're feeling quite confident about that at this stage, so you'll see that in February for the January report. There's really two main exception areas that I just want to talk about. So firstly, to transport, the significant change there. There's a lot of movement in the transport portfolio at the moment. And we're working through, sorry, my screen was jumping around. We're working through that with Lynette and her team at the moment. So a few of the significant movements include the Transport Choices SURF program budget reduction from the government. So we've made some forecast adjustments there, yet the budget still sits in there at this stage, so there'll be some movement on that. There's been some additional funding provided by Waka Kotahi for the carriageway reseal program, and the council's taking advantage of that to increase the chip sealing and asphalt program. And just moving around the city, I think a number of you will see good evidence of that, so that's lifting that forecast. There's been some really good progress on the major cycleways routes and Horsehall Junction Road, some of those major projects, so there's some good expenditure there leaning into the next year using the bring back provision, so there's some higher forecasts and associated expenditure around that. And there's also some forecasting around one of the we had a bit of an unplanned weather event in November last year, so there's some remedial work being done around that. So there's a lot of movements in forecasting, which is a positive thing, and some good expenditure with some budget readjustments still to catch up, hence that difference. So hopefully when we report back next time, you'll see a little bit of closer consolidation and integration of that. The other main exception I just wanted to draw attention to, which was partially touched on before through Councillor Harrison Hunt's question and Russell's response, just in the digital portfolio. So you can see in our report, against the current year budget, there's some over expenditure forecast. And through the LTP provisions and the answer that Russell's just provided, we're utilising the bring back provisions in the longer term program of the digital portfolio. So you'll see it looking like that for the remainder of this year, and we'll be using the bring back provisions via that longer term program and LTP process to meet that shortfall in the current year budget. I've attached the watch lists, and I might, since David's given me the control, I just want to go to the watch list and cover off some headline things. Sorry. So on this front page here, we've reduced the watch list by one project. We removed the Heathcote Cycleway because it's finished. So there's 24 on here today. The red ones is a status triggered by a project manager's assessment. So I'm just going to pick a couple of examples. So the second one down, Parakiori Rec and Sports Centre, for example, is got a red flag critical. That relates to the timing issue and the uncertainty around that. So red doesn't always mean bad. That's the thing I want to emphasise here. Red just means an issue identified by the project manager that we need to keep a close eye on. And with that particular project, it's a program and timing issue. If I go down to another one, just by way of example, and I'll pick, I've just flagged a couple here. About halfway down, there's the Norwest Arc, a couple of cycleway ones, Norwest Arc and South Express route, two red critical ones sitting together. That's budgetary pressure. So project managers are rightfully indicating that there's some pressure there on the cost. It doesn't necessarily mean it's out of control or anything yet, but it just highlighting those issues to be watched carefully. So I'm happy to take any questions beyond that. The last thing to add is the CRAF and SURF lists, which we report quarterly, are not in this report, but they will be in the next one, in that quarterly report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure that my question's for Andrew. It's possibly transport. I'm just curious around the fluidity of funding that seems to go on with Waka Kotahi. Obviously, they've had a bit of a budget kind of pull back, if you like, but am I clear in understanding that they're putting more money into sealing and the like? I mean, why does that happen? How does that happen?
Well, Lynette will tell you how, but yes, that's what's happened.
So Waka Kotahi, their budget cycles are slightly different to ours in that they are very much on a 3-year cycle. So yes, we have a 3-year cycle where we update our LTP, but we have a 10-year program with that. They have a 3-year cycle of budgetary that's quite tight. They're getting towards that end of that 3-year cycle at the moment, and they have, and this has happened before, and we have before in the past, and we have taken advantage of this situation as well in the past. They get to the end, and the expenditure that's expected around the country is not happening as expected, and they have surplus budget available. So they have approached us and said we have a bit in the surfacing that you could take advantage of. Can you take advantage of it? We know that it is a use it or lose it situation, so we are looking to use it.
Well, that's a piece of good news.
It is.
Good to know. Thanks.
And it's through the chair. It's also credit to our maintenance teams that they have the confidence in us to deliver it. So.
Yeah. Great stuff.
That's a good question. Right, so we've got Aaron, Phil, Sarah, Celeste, Tyler, Yanni, and Mark.
Okay, so
And Andre.
I've got two quick ones. The first one's on that watch list that you were just on before, the red, green, ambers. Pages Road Bridge, why is that? What's its reading critical? I've probably stolen 3 people's question.
Do you want to answer?
No, I don't know what's red on there.
Oh,
Why is it listed as red? Is
It'll
it a
be
timing? It's
that's
timing.
It was written by someone
It's
from Brighton.
predominantly it's a budgeting thing
Oh, yes.
because of the forecast, and the current budget doesn't provide the full 63 million, I think it is, but the LTP draft makes provision for it. So
Yes.
the project manager's rightfully saying, well, I don't have an approved budget at the moment. I'm making a bid for it in the LTP, so I'm going to flag it red
Right, and
until that's confirmed, and then the red flag would probably come back.
okay, and there'd be no risk with that with the new minister for NZTA with that one, would there?
The risk is the RLTP, and it is down the chain in the RLTP, so it has reduced in its priority in the RLTP prioritisation process, and that is something that we, through the chair, we're going to come back to you on because it's currently out for consultation. So the RLTP is the Regional Land Transport Plan that's published through Environment Canterbury.
Right, but are we hearing noises from the minister? I think from what I could take from it is there might be a whole lot of things in there that he's not so keen on, but the ones like bridges and bypasses he's quite keen on.
Through the chair, that's a bit of a crystal ball gaze for us at the moment, and until we know what the GPS is, which is due to come out in March, then we don't have we are just crystal ball gazing.
Right, yeah, so I'm, going by all his statements so far, I think it would be safe. Then the other one is any of the projects that we've signed off in the last year, like the surf ones and things like that, and we might be going to do, is that funding locked in? Any ones that we've done contracts for or we're doing the works for, we are guaranteed that money from the government for their share? 100% guaranteed? Or are we doing some projects where we might be picking up 100% of the bill? Yeah.
I think that's one I'll come back on, because if that's the right chair, because there's multiple different facets of funding. So there's NZTA funding, there's SURF funding, as in the Climate Emergency Response Fund funding, there's CREF funding, and there's Streets for People funding. So we've got lots and lots of different programs of work, and it is very complex at the moment. I know that it is something that current government's focused on simplifying, so that will be useful.
Well,
I can come back and
yeah,
give you
because
an
I
update.
recall, and once the election had happened, the word was put out by they weren't even a government yet, but that certain projects wouldn't be funded going forward. So a number of councils had hit the brakes on those projects. Did we continue or let any contracts when we weren't guaranteed funding?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I don't know.
It'd be good
I'm
to
a bit-
know, because it changes. I mean, especially the
We-
ones that are high percentage funded by the government.
So there's a paper coming to
21.
on the
21st.
which is around the transport choices and everything like that. 'Cause I think my understanding of it, and Lynette, you'll know it way better than me, was that if we'd signed like a Schedule 2, then actually we could carry on and they'd guarantee the funding. But if we hadn't, then it would be either canned or council would need to come back and make a decision to fully fund it,
Right.
unless you could get NZTA funding for a portion of it. So
exactly
I think
right.
it's probably fair to, if you're okay, to take it away, and
Yep.
that'll work its way through over the next couple of weeks.
And
We're just
it's-
getting some papers
And it's only the SURF funding that we've had anything definitive from the government on
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Right, cool.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, Phil and then Sarah.
Lynette, please. Horsell Junction Road, I went down the other day, and there's a lot of work going on down there, which is good. Very roughly, off the top of your head, and I won't hold you to it, is the whole job about 22 million, roughly? Is that where we're at?
What's written in there? Andrew's got
I'm
it.
just going to bring it up in a minute.
Okay, no, that's right. I don't. But we've spent a lot of money. How long are we going to wait until Kiwi Rail put their first peg in the ground? How is things progressing there? Because we've spent a lot of money and can't use it because they're holding us up. So I'm putting them out there, not us.
At the moment, they are still working to a program of later this year to have the lights open. But that's us working with their program. What Kiwi Rail's program?
Yeah, so it might be this year. We don't, if they're giving us a date, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, later this. My understanding is it's the end of this year. That Kiwi Rail will have their signals. That's the
Okay,
forecast.
so we've spent a lot of money towards it, which is great because you spend it now, otherwise it's not going to get any cheaper. But we are now held up by a government department that is not pulling their weight and filling their obligations. You don't have to answer that. Now, with this government money that has been given to us for the extra trip sealing, are we using the vast majority of that on asphalting because it's more expensive so we can gobble it up quicker? Can we please do that? Because you know what my position is, I like to
Yes.
see more asphalt than chip.
Through the chair, I have just about finished a memo to give you the detail on all of that extra dollars. So I will get you in. I will get a memo
Perfect.
around yourselves. And
Good,
get you
great.
onto
And
it.
lastly,
Yes.
we are not letting any contracts out at the moment that have got speed humps or roads intersections at them at the moment. We're letting contracts, but that portion of it is not in them.
No, that is not correct.
So we are, even though the government has said that they're not going to fund or do not want speed humps.
No, the government. We have had no direction on that. We are carrying on with the work that we have committed to date. The government, we haven't had that direction that directly, if that makes sense. I have to
Okay.
come back, but we do have contracts that are committed that have speed management measures in them.
Okay, Sarah. You good? Celeste.
Lynette, this one's around the resourcing required to deliver the capital program. Now that the transport choices, I understand we're getting a briefing on the 21st, but a number of amendments relate to resources not being available. So some of the projects that were deferred last year, and I'm referring to, say, the cycleway out to New Brighton, were deferred on the basis we didn't have the resources to deliver them at that time. Now that that program, effectively, some of it won't be delivered now, can we look at bringing those projects back?
Through the chair, are you talking about the changes with the SURF program and the deferrals that were made as a result of the SURF program? Because there is a list of 7 or 8 projects that were deferred, and that is part of the report that's coming back to the 21st.
I'm just aware that we'll be looking at adopting the draft annual long-term plan on the 14th, so we won't have that information to hand. Feedback we've had is that the amendments, some of the challenges to putting them up is resourcing, so that will be hard for us to...
Sorry, through the chair, that's a long-term plan question rather than a...
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess it's around resourcing. Do we have enough resourcing, or have we got additional resourcing because those projects have been deferred?
I'm unsure of the question.
yeah.
We didn't have additional resources because when we put the SURF program together through a decision of
Reprioritised.
council, we deferred 7 projects, which were listed, one of which wasn't the cycleway to the east. They were deferred so that we could build and deliver the SURF program. We're coming back to you on the 21st,
The cycleway was deferred.
proposing to get going on the 7 projects that were deferred now because we're not doing the SURF. So we're switching it back, and we have taken that into consideration in building the LTP as well.
Sorry, I think my question is relating to capacity. Is that capacity now available? And the cycleway was one of those projects.
That's not a question
Yeah.
for Lynette, though.
Okay.
But I get your point, but I think, as Lynette clearly said, when we agreed to do the SURF funding, we prioritised the program of work. Now that SURF funding, as I understand it, has been pulled, they're going to come back to us and reprioritise the work that was deprioritised. Yeah. Okay, Tyler.
Kia ora. Lynette, I won't be asking you any questions, so yeah, you should stay. It's around the digital space, and I'm not sure if you're the one to be asking about this, but for me, I'm a little bit confused. You obviously know I've got quite a bit of interest in this, and the SAP program is something that I'm interested in. If you're looking at the projects 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the right side of that, what page is that? Page 57 of our agenda. I would have thought that all of those are SAP related, and I'm not too sure exactly what the whole year forecast is for just the SAP program. If you're understanding the question. So you've got a collation of 6 to 10. I'm not sure what the collective amount of the SAP program is that's forecasted.
It might be something they need to come back on.
We'll come back around to
Okay.
SAP.
I'm particularly interested in the digital citizen experience, and I am worried that there may be cuts. I just wanted to make sure that there won't be any cuts going into the long-term plan.
Again, they can come back to you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It is helpful when we've got detailed questions to flag them so that we can get the relevant
Yeah.
staff in the room, because it's not fair on
Yeah, no, that's
Andrew or
cool.
Mary they're not going to know that level of detail.
It's good to log. It's good to log. We don't get these opportunities, so it's good to just bring it up.
No, sorry, I wasn't getting at you. What I was saying was that, we get the papers in advance. If you think there's an IT question, let me know, and I'll make sure I've got the relevant person so that the public can see it as well.
No worries, Sam. All good. No, that's it. Cool. Cheers.
I was just wondering, are we able to get an update on Parakurori? Like, are we still expecting it to open August 2025?
Yes, there's no change to dates. There's no change to dates at the moment.
Right. And are there, given that we've got events coming to the city that we're going to use that facility, I think the Special Olympics was one, are we able to get a memo around what the contingency planning is for events that would have been scheduled to be in it?
I think I kind of want to focus us back on the purpose of this report, which is the delivery of capital within the council. So I get that there are relevant there are questions about some of the operational stuff, but actually, you can submit them at any time through the office of the chief executive. The team will come back to you. But if we're really using this report for the purpose of it, it's around the delivery of projects.
Yeah.
So have you got a question on the delivery of a project that isn't Parakurori?
Well, when are we going to next be updated on Parakurori? Are we going to have Ropinga come and talk to us again at some stage?
We can provide advice. It's probably as easy to do it by memo as
Okay.
it is by a presentation, because there's no real change on the last information you got, but we'll definitely get you an update.
Right. Okay. I think that would be useful. I was just interested in, it's a bit like Celeste's question. I'm trying to comprehend how we deal with the CRAF, the SURF, the transport choices, and the LTP. And I'm concerned that we're not going to get enough financial information around the implications of the CRAF projects, for example, in terms of updated costings, or the impact with the SURF and transport choices funding being deferred because there was a crossover of some of the projects from CRAF were put into transport choices, which are now no longer going to be funded. So when is the earliest we could get that information ahead of signing off on the draft LTP?
So my assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in order to make the decisions on the 21st, we're going to need a holistic view of that whole program anyway. So my expectation it'll be in that report.
So I'm just trying to
Is that a
understand.
fair thing, Mary? To all of
Yes,
it?
yep,
So that signing off on the draft LTP will have that information.
yes, yes.
No, the
Through
paper on
the
21st.
chair, SURF was only for this financial year, so it didn't have an impact moving forward.
So the problem is that there's a number of CRAF projects that were defunded and put into the transport choices.
Yeah.
There's now not getting funding. So
That will be covered in the report.
and
So
okay, and there's a number of CRAF ones that my understanding is that the cost of delivering those is now going up and up and up. So if we wanted to put amendments to the LTP to get some of those things funded to address the budget shortfalls, how can we do that?
We'll come back. There's some things where formal reports are due a few days after that we actually may have the information that you need to be able to for the draft. So we'll work that on. We'll talk about how.
But
we
I get
can
you,
get back to
you kind of want a holistic view of all of that stuff to make sure that we've got the necessary budget to do it, and we're very clear with the community on stuff we aren't delivering.
And the only other question I had was I'm trying to understand all the money that government gave us around PT, and then we see that there's a bus priority lane that's listed as red critical and is value engineered. So do we have a sort of, is anyone able to explain
What
the money
page are
that
you on, Yanni? For?
Sorry, that's the Lincoln.
It's Lincoln Road.
It's the
Coolitz to
Lincoln
Wrights
Road.
Chair.
Can you answer
Rights,
that?
Coolitz to.
I think Lynette's got an answer for you there.
So it is listed as critical, and it is listed as critical on timing because there's quite a significant property purchase. It's my understanding. And design and detailed
still
design
continuing, so
challenging.
there's still some
So
value engineering to work through.
The financials are listed as red as well.
That's correct. Yeah.
And there's a budget shortfall for this project. But what I was just trying to understand, in terms of the government funding that they gave us, or they announced for public transport, is any of that funding able to be put into this?
I don't think that funding exists.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it was a press conference before the election that didn't go to cabinet, as I understand it. But okay, next up is Mark. Yeah.
Thank you. You might be able to enlighten me here, Andrew, perhaps. Matatiki, the opening date, have we come to a conclusion around that as yet?
I'm here.
Thank you, mate.
Hi. We are looking towards the end of April, but we haven't cemented an absolute date yet. We're just working through a few operational issues, and we should be in a position within about the next 2 to 3 weeks to confirm that opening date.
Excellent, thank you. And then, Lynette, hope you didn't go too far away.
Sorry, you did say so.
Thanks to the Mayor for asking around the Hallsville Junction Road extension. Of course, that's our perennial Kiwi Rail relationship and delivery problem there, I think, isn't it?
Through the chair, Hallsville Junction Road, we are working on delivering all of the sections that we can until the signals upgrades are done, and they are done, and the track upgrades are done, and they are done by Kiwi Rail, yes.
Yep. Cool. Remaining on Kiwi Rail, the South Express MCR, I notice here that there's work being started with Kiwi Rail around the Parker Street crossing design and safety measures.
Yeah.
So presumably that will simply be on the approved scheme design with just the single lights.
Yes, it is. Yes, and we have advised that, and that we need. Should the whole intersection need to go in, that needs to go in as a project in its own right, and so we need to put that in the LTP in a project in its own right.
Okay.
Will be much more complex than the work that is to go ahead just to get the crossing parallel to the railway line.
Right. So would I be right in understanding this kind of for the community's benefit that we'll be aiming to try and get a project into the LTP for that full intersection treatment, and that the single light for the cycleway is likely to be put in the interim just to get the cycleway in, through and operating?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you for that. Then the other question I've got is around Barter Road through to Kirk Road intersection. That's sort of one of the next cabs off the rank. Do we know what sort of timing we're looking at getting that out to pricing, tender, and then
I think that's probably
delivery?
a detailed question if you can come back on.
Yep,
Yeah,
we'll come
that'd be
back
good.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Andre.
I'd like to withdraw my question, please.
Anyone else would like to withdraw their question? No? Victoria? Yeah.
Thank you. Chair. Just sorry to come back to Parakiori. Can I just check, please, that the overall status marked as critical is in relation to timing and not funding? Because I understood that our contribution is capped. So is there any risk to us from a funding perspective, or is it just simply timing for ultimate delivery of the project?
We've had no indication of financial risks to us for that. So the Crown are meeting their obligations.
Okay, so to translate that, are we still capped on our contribution, and there's no currently expectation that we're going to be adding to any of that project? Thank you. The second question was a supplementary to the very first question by Councillor Barber for Lynette around the additional ceiling projects, when you said that there was excess budget available and that you're pleased to be able to help with spending that money and resealing, and that you were confident that you can deliver that. We've had a real focus in the last year about deliverability as well as affordability. So if we're taking on all this additional work at short or little no notice, has that impacted your existing program of work with other things not being delivered, please?
No, it's being delivered by the maintenance teams, not a capital. It's not a capital project as such. So it's work that's delivered by the maintenance teams, and they have gone into the process of figuring this out. And that the request did come through late last year, so we've been working over the Christmas period, figuring all this out. But they know that it's additional, so the maintenance teams have been able to gear up to do it.
Great. Phil?
This is not you, Lynette.
I've got one for you after that, though.
All right. Just talking about the stormwater thing at Anzac Waitaki Stock Bank, a place close to my heart. It's on page 82, please. So the whole forecast budget is around 16 million over a number of years. Have I got that right?
Correct. Yep, you're reading that right. Yep.
So to date, we've spent about, we'll say, 2.5-ish. Is that right?
To date, we've spent 1.1.
Oh, okay.
Financial
I'm looking previous.
4 years dashboard there.
Okay, 1.1. How is the... I understand there's a lot of stuff being taken away because it was deemed to be contaminated. How much over budget are we on this? I don't expect you to tell me now. I just want to know. We must be over budget. I'm surprised that we've done so much work down there and it's cost so little. How's that?
I think that's probably one we can... Oh, at least you want to come up. You can.
Gavin may be able to answer it, but otherwise...
Yeah. I don't want to put you in the spot, but I know there's a lot of extra stuff seems to be happening down there.
There's been very little physical works done to date. So the main part of the project has not started on the ground for the Anzac to Waitaki.
That's the ponds, so to speak.
The stop bank.
The stop bank's built.
This is Waitaki. This is from Waitaki to Anzac. So it's a different project.
Oh, sorry, I'm misunderstanding something. So where's this one?
It's from I'd have to
One,
get it come
there's
back
one
to you.
happening at the moment, right now.
Yeah, so that's Waitaki.
Yeah.
This is Anzac to Waitaki. So the IRC is broken up to a number of different projects.
Right. Okay. So it's from Anzac Drive to where the Waitaki one finishes at the moment.
Correct. Yeah.
So
it
if I
goes
want
past the Jack
information on where
Hinton Memorial.
Waitaki itself is at, I'll go offline.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Project. Yeah.
Great, thank you. That's brilliant. Lynette, I've just got one, and it's around the major cycleway, the Norwest Arc University to Herwood. Am I reading that right? So the budget's 15.1, but we're forecasting at 32.7. Is that?
So that's
I'm on in 71.
I have no doubt you're reading it right.
Well, I'm hoping the information's not correct.
Yes, you are reading it right, and we are working through that at the moment, trying to figure out how the number came about. So it is incredibly large.
Yeah, that's 17 million overrun, eh?
Yeah, and that is us flagging there is a funding issue. We also have to come back to you on a notice of motion piece of work for that piece on Aorangi Road.
When we come back on that, could
we are looking to get you some very detailed information on that, and we wouldn't move forward.
Yeah.
We will not be moving forward. Should the number be in that order, we will not be moving forward without having come back and spoken to you.
What would be really good when we do that is to take into account lessons learned on previous projects and kind of work out how we got it undercooked at the beginning, if that is the case. I mean, if the price is the price, it's the price. But actually, that's not the decision we made at the time. So I would be like the lessons that we've learned on other ones, if they can be factored in when we do that work, that'd be great.
The initial work is showing through the chair that the initial work is showing that drainage is a big factor in that area, and we do know that from the type of area it is, and it's all deep dish. But we're still working through it. It all sort of popped up just before Christmas.
Okay, yeah, because that's a massive overrun.
Yeah, and it's not. It's by no means a set number at the moment. That is not.
Yeah.
What
All right.
we
So
are
when that
looking
comes
at.
back, if we can have the lessons learned from other stuff,
We will do that.
I'll probably
Absolutely.
watch that one like a hawk now, given it's in.
Yeah, good to know.
But they're going to come back to us with detailed advice. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Yanni.
I want to check the Pages Road Bridge. Just trying to understand who made the decision to deprioritise it as part of the Regional Land Transport Program.
Sorry, what was the question?
The Pages Road Bridge.
Yeah.
Like we heard that it's been moved down the priority in terms of the Regional Land Transport Program, and I was just wondering, like, who makes that decision, and why do we as council not have an ability, or do we have an ability as council to challenge that, move an amendment? Just trying to understand how a project that for some of us is really significant, a lifeline project, can be deprioritised.
So through the chair, can I take a couple of minutes to give a bit of context?
Yep.
You want me to do that, or would you rather I do it offline? I can do it offline.
Well, I mean, I think Okay, if you want to go through it now, then it's
Literally 1 minute. Our LTP, for everyone's information and the public's information, our LTP feeds into a regional land transport program. So our transport program is picked up, and we picked up version 5, and it's put in with all of the other councils in the Canterbury region, and that is then published as the Regional Land Transport Program. Program. And the Regional Land Transport, the Regional Transport Committee, of which the Mayor sits on to represent us, is, and all mayors sit on, they agreed a prioritisation tool for that, for the current RLTP. That is currently, over a 3-year period with changes in GPSs, the priorities shift and change. So yes, it's an important project to us, Pages Road Bridge, but in the big scheme of it, when in the regional scheme of it, when you have a new bridge across the Ashburton River, you have the PT programs coming in and changing priorities through the GPS, those priorities change over a 3-year period. The last RLTP, it was the number 1 priority for the region. It is number 11, I think I wanted 12, I think I want to say, 11 or 12, this time with that priority. You do have a chance to make a submission. We do have a chance to make a submission on that RLTP, so we will come back to you on that process.
So I think it's fair to say we'd like to make a submission on that.
Yeah, I could see that from the.
Yeah.
And can we get the community making submissions as well?
The community can make submissions.
Okay,
It's out
great.
for public
But
submission.
then, like you said, sorry, I won't drag it out, but there will still be a lens put over it when the government revise the government policy statement, which may actually bump it right to the...
Which
you
may
know,
change it again.
They might go PT Future, I'm just speculating, they go down, bridges up, you know, so... Okay, thank you. Yes, and then we're going to move on. So Celeste, Aaron, and then we're done. Yep.
Thank you. That's really helpful. In terms of, I'm aware there is a potential budget shortfall for the regional land transport plan. So I just want to make the comment that the higher up it is, the more likely it is to be funded. It's not really a question.
That's a very useful question. Aaron, and then we're going to finish.
Yeah, and I think your crystal ball might be right there, Sam. The so the
Call it a
question's
hunch.
almost to the mayor around in any meetings you've had with the new minister. Have you mentioned the Pages Road Bridge, and will you be mentioning it in future?
I haven't mentioned the Pages Road Bridge
Yet.
first, but I have been talking about Kiwi Rail rather hard.
Right. So next time you speak to him, you mention
Absolutely,
that bridge as well.
no
Thank
problem.
you.
Very good. Excellent. I suspect that'll probably bump it right up the list. So we'll. So Aaron's happy to move it. Kelly's happy to second it. Any discussion? All in favour? Against? Thank you. Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Lynette. It's you've been put on the spot today, but I appreciate your answers. That's great. Okay. So the next one is a formality. Phil's happy to move it. Melanie's